Hey, so today is a double header. I am going to be traveling, flying out to Italy with my mom tomorrow, and I'm gonna try to do something cool there. My goal, so when my mom and I are hitting Florence first, and then we're renting a villa just outside of Tuscany after that. And we travel like once every 2 years. Like we take a big trip, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I love my mom because the first thing that we hit up, and she like has all the addresses and their hours, is all the metaphysical shops in Florence is where the first stops are gonna kind of be. So I'm hoping to find new cards, like maybe they don't really do runes, but I want to figure out the Italian equivalent to either runes or staves, um, bones, like anything like that. Just any kind of new divination. I'm just like really pumped about. But I'll probably try to do some readings from there and the spaces that I'm in. Um, so my second reading, so I was just like wiping my tears and like calming myself down from the first one because I was talking about endings. There is a theme that comes up a lot when I come home. So my parents still live in the house that I grew up in. We moved here when I think I was maybe 3 or 4, and my brother was a wee bairn. But this house has been in my family for a while, and every time I come home, uh, it teases up a lot of old narratives. My parents are super lovely. They're still together, and they're amazing, very caring humans. But they had the difficulty of having a child who looked. I think I looked 30 since I was like 13, and hopefully I still continue to look 30 as I aged beyond the other side of 30. But when I come home, it reminds me that I should have been a more rebellious teenager. I should have done more naughty things, said no, stayed out later, like I don't know, made it a little bit, made become more of a rebel, I think. Um, and I say that because my parents still kind of sometimes treat me as a teenager because they worry about me and all that good stuff. Even though I pretty much could run the world if I wanted to. But that said, the one thing I noticed, when I was in my 20s, I did a lot of work around healing my inner child. I actually had a pretty good childhood, but I was bullied pretty horribly, and so was my brother. And so there was a lot of medicine I had to do around that, when I was in my 20s, of just coming into that divine self worth, around like realizing and reparenting myself around that trauma. And to specifically speak to it, I used to ride the bus with this girl who would sit next to me, and she used to punch me and beat me and stab me with like pens and pencils in my stomach. Like, it was just a really horrible time. And I've done a lot of work around that specific bullying, that physical bullying, because it went on for years. Um, but the one thing I will say in my 40s, which I didn't expect, it hit my like late 30s, early 40s, is my rebellious inner teenager, the one that didn't get to speak out, the one that was a really really good Catholic girl. There's a lot of I wouldn't say rage because that's kind of a strong word, but there's a lot of disgruntlement, if that's a word. It's like if I could write a letter to someone about it, I would. But I was way too well behaved when I was a teenager, and I think that if I were really to put on my hat of, okay, Krista, come on. If I really were to think about it, I didn't rebel that much, but the way that I live my life every day is a pretty big rebellion against my Catholic upbringing. I'm a witch, and I've been a witch probably since I was a kid, and I didn't realize it. But I practiced witchcraft probably for the past 17 years I've been doing it. Now, to me, I'm not being like, fuck you, I'm a witch, I'm going to do that. It's not about that. It's actually a reclamation of my divine feminine. In a lot of organized religions, women cannot lead, and we cannot be the conduits of, divinity. And our sexuality is snuffed, down to the fact that we say that the Virgin Mary was a virgin when God came down, was like, actually it was an angel, came down and was like, guess what, someone's gonna make you pregnant, but you're not gonna have the fun part. It's like, and then she gives birth to God and then has to, like, I don't know, all this stuff. It's ridiculous. But I think my witchcraft is me laying the first foundational stone of being a rebel. And then, of course, being a psychic medium, I feel like that operates outside, I color outside the lines of what society deems normal or natural. So I have to think in my head, Krista, you're actually rebelling every day. And also, what I do for a living is illegal in most states. And so I take a lot of, I say joy, but I take a lot of joy in the fact that that is a rebellion of us in and of itself. That said, it still drives me to want to rebel. And I want to do a reading around those out there, specifically feminines, who are nurturing their inner teenage rage right now, because especially as teenage girls, or feminines, there's a lot of suppression that happened usually around that time when we were starting to come into our own in a way that masculines are allowed to explore because they're just boys. Boys will be boys, like that kind of shit. I'm not saying that we should nurture bad behavior, but it's more so of like we're not allowed to kind of be fully ourselves because we're being forced into a stereotype or a box that we're supposed to fit into when we're teenagers. And so today I wanted to do, if any of that word salad made sense, I want to do a reading around nurturing your inner rageful teenager. So current energy, oh, okay, I like this. Current energy is Thurisaz, which is like cutting out. Do you remember when you were in your like maybe like 14 or 15 and like you had a group of friends, and sometimes like you just stayed in that group because you're like, well, this is all I got and this is all I'm going to get, so I'm just going to stay here even though they're a bunch of jerks or they treat me like they don't treat me well. I'm going to do that. Think about, this is actually a writing exercise. I want you to think about when you bring up your inner teenager, like say for me, when I bring her up, I think Krista was a good girl. She didn't really talk back to teachers. She got good grades. She worked hard. She rarely pushed back. That was actually the part that I wish like I did less of, was pushing back. I didn't push back enough. But I think about like the things that I did to make everyone happy and to be a people pleaser. I would actually for myself do an automatic writing of like, how did I kind of come to be a people pleaser in the first place? Why was I doing it? And what are some ways that I still do it? And how do I need to knock it the fuck off and like cut that out of my life? It's that. And it could go from like that kind of behavior, like I just talk about for you. It could also go all the way down to toxic behaviors. Maybe you were truly a rebel and got to live that life when you were a kid. Are there parts of yourself that you wish that you could get back? It's that kind of a question. Or are there behaviors you wish you could have cut out, while you were forming a human being? Challenge is Uruz, which is your divine masculine strength. Give me a second to think on this because this one makes like a little bit less sense. You're on your... Well, all right. Uruz is divine masculine strength in a way that it's like the brute strength. It's almost like the... okay, I got it. It's almost the way that our rage shows up. When I was a kid, when I think about when I would hit like the tea kettle boiling and I would hit that point, stuff that I used to do was like throw stuff. Like I had glasses when I was a kid. I was such a nerd, which I love it. I'd take my glasses off and I'd like throw them, or I would like hit something, or I'd want to smash something, or I want to beat something. And all those things are healthy. I'm not even gonna like, it wasn't a person, it was just, I wanted to, and it wasn't an animal, but I just wanted to like take a stick and just whip something with it, right? Or break something. I like to break glass when I'm like really frustrated. It's about that. Your challenge is about harnessing that rage, how it manifests with you. It comes out in different ways for everybody. And so think about how that comes out with you. And the challenge being, how are you alchemizing it now? I remember when I was new into my singledom, I had been cheated on the first time. There was a really, really healing moment where I did like a primal scream in the woods. And I had like some cheap like dollar store glasses at the time, and I just shattered them all, and it felt so great. And I was like, even though it was like, it didn't, it got out energy and it alchemized it. Now it didn't change my situation, but it forced it outwards instead of keeping it inwards. And I actually think that it's really bad if you have a lot of inner rage, and this is something I talk to my clients about a lot. When you contain that rage and it doesn't have an outlet, it will fucking eat you alive. And even you could be the calmest, nicest, compassionate person in the whole world, but if you've got that thing inside of you that you haven't let out yet, it's going to manifest in different ways, whether it's health issues, whether it's like struggling with impatience or bitterness. Like, you know, it'll manifest in different ways. And as easy as it sounds to be like, you know, take a bat and beat the shit out of something in the backyard, it's like, you know, don't do it to a tree, because trees have feelings. But it's more of like, you know, like glasses is like whatever you need to do to get it out, like get it the fuck out, but then contain it. This is badass. So the outcome of alchemizing this inner teenage rage is hagalaz, which is complete disruption. It's like ripping up your foundation. A lot of us, when we, oh, my phone's about to go. A lot of us, when we grow as people, you know, and this is for people who have children and don't have kids, there are times where if we don't nurture and if we don't alchemize our teenage experience, we take it into our adulthood and then we almost like punish ourselves and other people. This is asking you, when you're tapping into your inner teenager, and you're tapping into that rage. I remember the age of 15, I was pissed about everything. Mind you, I just started like my menstrual cycle as well. But I was like fucking pissed about everything. I was pissed about being good. I was pissed about my school. I was pissed about religion. I was angry about a lot of things. And you know, I've worked on, and I've had many ways of like nourishing and getting through that rage. But the biggest thing is that if you don't work on this work right now, once you're in your like mid to late 30s, early 40s, you're not doing your work. And I think that's what Hagalaz is that when you realize that you've hit that point where you're dealing with and navigating all of your rage, it's time to clear it out. And rip up the foundation so you could build a new one, because no one wants to deal with your fucking inner teenager, right? Like, that's not cute. Especially me being like 43. If I'm still acting out and being angry about a people pleaser and like being such a good person or a good girl all the time, that's my own fault for not being enough of a rebel, right? And so that's the message for today, is just like, you know, step into this energy however you can, but keep growing. And I think the biggest thing is that take that rage, do something with it, and keep growing. That's what the human experience is all about. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Take care.